Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Sam Kagbo, joins us via Zoom. Good morning.
Do you want me to just mute myself?
Morning, Mr. Kagbo. It's nice to have you with us.
Morning, and thank you for having me this morning.
All right, let's talk a little bit about these pensioners and this recurring decimal. People work for years, and it's time for their pensions, and they have to protest for that. What do you make of this story?
It's unfortunate because if for anything, these are old people who had given their entire life to the state. They had worked for the state, and it's time for them to retire and enjoy their old age. If you now hold on to their own pension, then obviously you want them to die. You are accelerating their way to their graves. It's unfortunate. We should have a culture that respects the old. We should have, because that's actually the African culture. We respect the old people and we believe that they are capable of interceding for us. But if we neglect them the way we are neglecting them, and some of them now, look at it, they now have to go to the street to protest. That's, to me, very, very unfortunate.
I mean, it's a very sad story there. All right, so let's see if we can get you to talk about a few other stories in the news. And of course, we'll be following up on this protest and these pensioners to ensure that the right thing is done by them. This is disappointing. Let's move on now to another story that shocked a lot of us, the EFCC questioning Tambuwal over this 189 billion naira withdrawal. Well, the details really, the details of this particular situation are a bit, they're not very clear to us. What we do know is that yesterday we heard that the EFCC is questioning him about these withdrawals. They're calling them illegal withdrawals, and it's a lot of money. Just some explanation on this. What's your thoughts on this, Mr. Kagbo?
Well, it's long been coming because this the Sokoto government, the moment it got into power, it instituted what do you call them now? They investigated the previous government and they set up a committee which looked into the finances and the transactions of Tambuwal's government. And it's long been coming because they worked for almost 2 years. This is the end part of it. Usually, when you make your findings and you make your own recommendation, the next thing is you take your finding to the prosecutorial agencies, and I think that's what they've done. And I am not one that would lose my sleep over anybody making a government official or a past government official to be accountable, because that's the way it should be. If you had worked for the state and you had occupied a particular office, especially that of the governor, there is every reason for you to account. And the issue of whether or not you are being persecuted is not there, because in any case, if there is no evidence against you, there is nothing they can do. Nobody can frame you up. Nobody can hook up evidence against you. So I would think that let's leave the politicians to do their games. Let's concentrate. Yeah, because I know, you know, they will sort themselves out.
It's so sad. We've gotten there as a people, haven't we? It's them again. Let them, let them cancel each other out. They'll sort themselves out. You know, but these funds is our money, isn't it? It's public money. That's the way, at least I and a few other people look at this situation. This is the accountability is also so we can know what is happening to the taxes that we're paying, to the monies that we're giving to government, you know, to the revenue that is supposed to be used for the development of the people. While we are at a point in our lives as a nation where we're looking at the political class and thinking, we don't know if you can be trusted anymore. The accountability question, isn't that something we should be interested in? And how do we follow through on those questions as regards accountability when it comes to public funds?
I think I've always said so. It is our duty to make public officers accountable and to make sure that we prevent them from appropriating state resources, because the consequences are there. If you see why we are where we are now. Basically, it's because over the years, public officials have actually misappropriated public funds. But this is not to say I'm not in any way making any conclusion, because in any case, none that EFCC involved, I would think that the matter will go to court. So we'll give everybody his due. Like I have said, it's an investigation. And if the investigation has credence, so be it. If it doesn't, he'll be discharged.
Mm. All right, I think we do have a few things that we need to speak about before we wrap up on this conversation. Of course, we saw the confirmation that Akpabio is well. We saw that from Mr. Benga Daniel. Maybe you would like to speak to that. And the presidency, I mean, since we're talking about wellness, the presidency is denying any reports of the president's being ill. And I think this conversation about the health of the president, I think it started when the Tigresses came back, and the vice president was one who represented the president at that particular event. So a lot of people say, asking, oh, where is the president, you know? What do you make of these speculations about people being ill and then having to get clarifications from the presidency in the case of the president? And we're seeing for Akpabio, Benga Daniel is one who's confirming that he's well. What's going on here? Why the ambiguity around these situations?
Well, I think we are right to be concerned about the health situation of those who are leading us, because he said that you find a sound mind in a sound body. They need to be well to do their work, because their offices are very, very impactful. If the office of the Senate President is a very serious office, and there are talk of that of the President, so there is nothing really wrong for people to show concern, but the only thing I would say is that we should not rush into conclusion, and we should not make the public to get panicky. If we don't have the right information, we tarry and try to be as cautious and tentative as possible, so that we don't give the impression that we are talking in absolute terms when we do not have the facts. You know?
All right, my colleague in Lagos has a few questions for you. Go ahead, Ayo.
Thank you, Kayla. But let me very quickly bring this information to us. Some of us are quite aware of already that there were protests. There are protests in the Federal Polytechnic Bauchi right now, because students were robbed last night around 2 a.m. Some of them, we understand, were stabbed. And of course, we will bring you more on this as events unfold. But this is the information that is just coming across now, that students in the Federal Polytechnic Bauchi are protesting insecurity in their school. Students, we understand, were robbed in the middle of the night, and some of them were stabbed. This is not one of those things we want to see, SAN, Mr. Cabo, but this is what where we find ourselves. One of the most troubling things is that these students are scandalized for life about, you know, this kind of situation. What do you make of it?
Well, you captured it very rightly. These are students, these are young men who are in school to learn. And if they are exposed to the environment and the way they've been exposed, all of us should be concerned, because what if they had killed some of them? You know, mind you, those who want to stabilize the state, usually they go to the heart of the state. They war onto the very critical segments of the state. This one around is the education. What they want to do is to make sure that parents want to think twice to send their children to schools, especially if the schools are somewhat outside the vicinities of the state capitals or the towns, you know, because they are vulnerable. If you do not give them good security, they are vulnerable. That was what happened to the Chibok girls. You know, let's be thankful that this one is just about some being stabbed. What if they were captured and taken away? You know, the the pictures and the trauma of the Chibokers would have been thrown at us all over again. So I would think that the state government, because these are their own domains, they should try as much as possible to provide security for their universities and polytechnic and even their secondary schools. You know, because once they've started, sometimes this may be a catalyst. It will egg on others to do the same thing. Because as we march on to the next cycle of election, all manner of non-state actors who want to destabilize the state, they will be putting in their own tools to make sure that the place become ungovernable and to threaten our own security.
You know, one thing, Mr. Kagbo, that I'd like to ask you about this as we round off this segment is this. There is usually that thing said that the federal government is the one in charge of security and that the state governments can barely do much about it. Do you buy that rhetoric? In the same vein, we hear that the governors are the chief security officers of their states. Do you buy the rhetoric that the governors in the states cannot do anything?
The federal government, no. The federal government is only a second layer. Their own is complementary. The federal government's role is complementary. It is for the states. The states are the ones who are creating these institutions, and they are the ones who are supposed to guard them and make sure that the students there are protected. This idea of sharing responsibilities and passing the buck, to me, I'm not impressed by that. I've always said so. The security starts with the states. Security starts with the local councils. It goes to the state before it goes to the federal government. So let them do their job. Let them stop passing the buck. Yes, sometimes they would need the agencies of the federal government, because sometimes some of the security challenges are very expensive and are very massive in what do you call it now, addressing them. So they may need the attention of the federal government, but let them start doing something first. Let the public see them doing something before they now say, oh, we've tried our best, and we would have thought that at the points at which we are, the federal government would have stepped in to give us what?
So you don't agree when they say, my apologies, Mr. Kabo, you don't agree when the state governments say that they don't have police apparatus, they don't have a military apparatus, that everything is under the purview of the federal government and they can't control them. Consequently, they don't have anything to prevent insecurity with. You don't agree?
I do not. If you check the security architecture, who are the people who constitute them? Who are the people who constitute them? Mind you, the president does not take a decision by himself. He has to rely on the advice of the Security Council. He has to rely on the advice of the Defense Council. He has to rely on the advice of the IG. He has to rely on the advice of the NSA. All of this, they advise, and all of these institutions and agencies, they liaise with the state governors, and they discuss state matters. And in fact, there is hardly any time they meet that they do not discuss security issues. But the federal government is usually the fall guy. That's what they do, because when they want to shirk responsibility, they say, oh, we are not. But every day the commissioner of police come to you. I have an understanding of how it works. Every day the commissioner of police briefs you, and the security agencies in the state, they brief you on what is happening, and they give you advice, and they give you red flags, they tell you what is happening. But most of the time, some of them, when they divert the security funds, they now blame the federal government.
Well, Mr. Samkagu, we have to thank you so much for your perspectives this morning, and Let's just hope that they don't come for you for saying that there is something that they can do that they're not doing. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Sam Kagwe is a senior advocate of Nigeria. We appreciate your time and perspectives.
Thank you very much.